Hello folks, Livewire coming at you with a Game Pass review of Brotato. Published by the studio Blobfish, Brotato was originally released in 2022 via Steam Early Access, but has since been ported to all major consoles, making its way over to Xbox Game Pass on January 30th, 2024. This top-down arena shooter, which features plenty of roguelite elements, is sure to give you hours and hours of chaotic fun that will leave you saying, just one more run. But without further ado, let's review. Now, since Brotato has no story to speak of, we're just going to focus strictly on the gameplay for the grand majority of this review, because quite honestly, that's going to be the bread and butter of this game. The concept is simple. Pick a character, fight waves of enemies, build your character as you go with stat enhancements and items, all while playing the part of a potato-ish egg-looking thing. From the start, you'll be given the option to choose a character. Each character has its own set of positive and negative stats, as well as buffs and debuffs. In some cases, the character choice will also limit the selection of weapons you have to choose from. This selection will grow as you play the game and accomplish various things such as completing a run or reaching a certain number in a specific stat. Now, your initial goal will be to make it to at least wave 20. This is considered a successful run. After completing a successful run, you will unlock higher difficulties that you can apply to all your subsequent runs. As you complete the next difficulty, a higher difficulty opens up until you reach the maximum difficulty of level 5. In addition to completing wave 20, the game also features something called endless mode. This allows you to move past wave 20 and just continue to play until you die. As you would expect, the waves will just continue to get harder and harder the further you go. The shooting is handled automatically for you, so no need to worry about aiming. As you continue to play, in addition to unlocking higher difficulties, you will also unlock additional items that can be purchased during your run, as well as more characters to choose from. Characters are unlocked by not only completing the first runs on the newly unlocked difficulty levels, but also achieving certain things within your run, such as getting certain stats like speed or luck to certain numbers, positive or negative, or by purchasing a certain amount of one type of item. You'll also encounter a number of different looking enemies whose attacks continue to vary and get more and more advanced as you progress through the run. Now, one of my favorite aspects of Brotato is how deep the game gets when it comes to builds. As mentioned before, every character starts off with a different set of positive and negative stats, as well as buffs and debuffs. Now, here are some of my personal favorites. The Engineer, which specializes in engineering mods and weapons, such as the Wrench, which spawns a turret, or the Screwdriver, which spawns a mine. The Brawler. Now, this one renders ranged weapons useless and really encourages you to play with unarmed weapons, such as your fists or hands, which are used to push the enemies away. The Bull. Now, this one was really unique. This one doesn't allow you to equip any weapons at all, including unarmed ones. The only way of damaging is to take damage, which basically means just constantly running into hordes of enemies to cause explosion damage. The Old Character, which basically just shrinks the map down and causes less enemies to spawn. And last but not least, the Multitasker, which allows you to equip up to 12 weapons, but a negative 5% damage debuff applies to every single one of them. Now, as you can imagine, this greatly affects how you play each of your runs. Each wave ends with you being able to choose different stats to enhance, as well as an opportunity to buy different items with the materials you get during the wave. The items that appear and the stats you can increase at the end of each wave are purely RNG, with the exception of if the character you are playing has some sort of item or stat that is guaranteed to show up. Of course, as with a lot of RNG-based games, you get the option to re-roll for the cost of materials that continue to increase the more you re-roll. Each item or stat can greatly affect the weapon you choose, as well as the way you will play. This really allows the game to remain fresh and exciting because literally not one run will end up being the same, nor will one build end up being the same. Just doing a quick Google search, you'll see all the different countless builds that you can try for each character. My first run I actually completed was with the Doctor, heavily building lifesteal. However, the hardest run I completed was with the Bull, heavily building every single type of damage. But I had fun with just about every single character. Now that we've talked about the gameplay, let's talk about the graphics and sound. Brotato reminds me of the top-down retro shooters of old. and to that point, you're not going to find too much going on graphically. Now, it is smooth, and you won't experience any frame rate drops during your run, even when your screen is filled with enemies, which is obviously one thing it does not share with its retro predecessors. However, the animations for the various items and weapons are pretty basic at best, and the enemy designs and attacks were also pretty generic in my opinion. On top of all of that, there's really nothing to look at environment-wise, as you're pretty much just running around on a colored slab. Now, to be fair, that isn't really the point of the game, and not a single one of these things will affect the gameplay, but I did feel like it was worth pointing out. Sound-wise, I kind of felt the same way as I did with the graphics, mediocre at best. It has a couple of decent sounding tunes that play on loop in the background during your playthrough, and the sound effects are pretty accurate, meaning a sword sounds like a sword should, and explosions sound like explosions, and there's some random sounding noises the enemies make, but they all sound pretty run-of-the-mill if I'm being honest, and I always am. Okay, now that we're done with the review, let's give it a score. Overall, when it comes to Brotato, I give it a 6.8. This game is a blast, don't get me wrong, and it has some depth when it comes to the stats and builds, and those are really the main two reasons why I even gave it the score I did. But the lack of story as well as the mediocre graphics and sound really prevents it from getting a higher score. Maybe if I was reviewing this game as a mobile game, it would hold up better, but as it stands, it's a 6.8. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you all found this review fair and informative, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Until next time.